Hey,
Hey, Megan.
how are you?
Good. How are you? How's California?
Yeah, it's warming up and there's no rain and there's no fires, so it's looking pretty positive. How's Wisconsin?
It, according to the computer, is a balmy 8 degrees.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, hey everybody, I can see that there are a lot of people here tonight. I'm Megan. This is Stephanie. If you've never joined us before, we've started.
Welcome.
Yeah, welcome. We've started this platform to hopefully encourage and make change in our horse industry. We want collaboration and we want knowledge and education for everybody. Is there anything I forgot, Steph?
So, we have a live chat through YouTube here. So, please feel free if you've got questions or comments. I can actually flash them on the screen, which I'm going to demonstrate right now. One of our longtime subscribers, Miss Sue,
Hi,
says hello and
Sue.
good evening. Hi, Sue. So if you've got questions, please go ahead and put them in the chat. We will attempt to address them as quickly as possible. Like Megan said, Tobey's having some technical difficulties. We understand because this is tricky. It's tricky joining us, but you're going to go ahead and read her bio, and then you and I can get started, and hopefully she can slide in when she gets everything sorted.
Yep. So, tonight our guest is Tobey Cooper. She is the owner and operator of two successful businesses, Lux Living, her interior design build firm, and Lux Equestrian, her dressage training facility in Elgin, Illinois. Tobey's 35 plus years experience in the equine industry began in 1990 when her parents bought Lamplight Equestrian Center. Tobey began taking sorry guys, I'm reading and I'm getting older. Tobey began taking dressage lessons while watching her parents develop Lamplight into the now internationally known facility. If anybody has been there, it is fantastic. They've done a super job over the years. Her focus has always been classical dressage with the emphasis on biomechanics on both horse and rider. In 2017, she established, now the phone, Lux Equestrian, where she has carved out a niche training business, both training horses and clients, as well as rehabilitating horses with past trauma. As a business professional in two diverse industries, we are excited to discuss the financial factors of equine industry and how to keep these businesses viable. Welcome, Tobey.
Hi, I finally made it.
Welcome.
Hey.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you for coming on and being
sure.
brave enough to speak with us. I'm
Yes.
so excited. And I really hope this live stream is educational, it's collaborative, and it doesn't turn negative. I want people out there to understand we're not here to complain. We have issues in our horse industry that we want to address, make people aware of, and I don't have the answers. Stephanie doesn't have answers. I'm hoping you have all the answers.
Oh man.
No pressure. But I think, we need to start having these conversations. And with one of the questions I was going to ask, which was, I really think Eliza Sidner really started making people aware. I think we as business owners have always been aware, but I think she made it personal and on a personal level that we all really felt. And I hope that she started it and we continue this. And her and Reese Koffler have been having presentations in Florida. And I hope this is a start that Barn Besties will continue. So thank you for being brave enough to come on and give us your advice, because I think we're all kind of quiet. So
Yeah,
Thank you.
for sure.
did you take the survey? First of all,
I
Eliza's
did.
survey. And
I
what
did
did you
take the
think of
survey.
it?
I think it's something that definitely needs to be highlighted. I mean, she was definitely onto something, especially targeting the burnout and the cost of keeping horses rising. and the fact that people are not comfortable really with that, you know?
Mhm.
And so her taking that time to put that survey together for us professionals to kind of get a broad spectrum stroke on what we're all struggling with and opening up the conversation as a community of trainers and barn owners and instructors alike. I think that there's a lot of education that needs to happen.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
that actually leads into my next couple of questions for
Okay.
you, which was when you started your businesses, did you go to college and get a business degree? Did you start with a business plan?
So I did go to college. I did not finish college because
Mm-hmm.
of a family health concern with my brother, but I wanted to be a veterinarian for equine.
Ooh, yeah,
He
me
got sick with
too.
brain cancer, so I came home from school and put myself into a design program at a local college and excelled in that area, and then went to Paris and finished out my education there for interior design. But I learned a lot about business in all of that, and also watching my family grow Lamplight into what they grew it into from a backyard facility into an international stage. So going into this business, yeah, I definitely had an idea of a business plan and thinking of how you can make it profitable, how I can sustain myself on it. And that's been a challenge.
Yeah, I definitely think it is. And do you, I mean, these are kind of personal questions, but do you regularly look at your finances or do you hire an accountant to do that? Like, do you have a good handle on it? And the reason I ask these questions is because one of the things we really learned from Eliza's survey is a lot of us with that are horse trainers don't have this background. And I think that would really change our industry if we looked at the numbers first and set us up for success.
I would agree with that. I would say that the majority of people in the equine industry, as trainers and barn owners and even grooms and things like that, it's not something that we have in our background. So we don't really focus on the business side of it. We focus more on the love of the horses and the love of the people, you know? So I do think that that's a challenge. And having had a second business,
Mm-hmm.
it's definitely brought me a little bit more to the mindset of I have to do this in a way that is sustainable for everybody.
Mm-hmm.
I know I'm a little bit off topic there, but I feel like um, in order for us to sustain as barn owners and people who care for horses, you have to kind of wear two hats. You have to be the person that got into it because you love the horses, but you also have to be able to feed your family, you know? And
Mm-hmm.
there's kind of this notion out there that people who have facilities are independently wealthy and we do it just for fun. And I don't really think that's the case.
I agree with you because I can tell you that my parents were wonderful. They had 20 acres and I had a dream, but I had to take out the loan and have a business plan. And every time I wanted to grow my business, I was financially responsible for that, right? And I had to do it, just like yourself. What is my next question? Um, yeah, do you like to go over your numbers and your finances?
Can you repeat that one more time?
Yeah, of course.
Sorry.
Do you like to go over your numbers and
Oh,
your
no, of course not.
finances?
No, it makes me sick to my stomach every time I look at them. No.
Really?
Yeah.
I love it. Do you have like QuickBooks? Like do you
I
because like there's all these little reports and you're like, "Oh, I can make some changes here." Like,
yeah,
yeah.
right. But it also makes you sick to your stomach when you look at those and you're like, "Oh my god, I have to eat ramen noodles for the next 2 months."
Yeah. Yeah, you have a point there.
Yeah.
Yes, you do.
I mean, I like the numbers part of it just because um it does keep you on track and it keeps you honest and it keeps you having the conversation within the business and with your clients. But I don't like looking at the numbers because it really makes me sick. I run a business that I have 10 clients and 10 personal horses. So for me, looking at the numbers is really stressful, you
Yeah.
know, because a lot comes out of my own pocket for my own herd. And then I separate that from the actual business of the training and boarding facility. So when I look at it, it's kind of shocking.
Yeah, yes, it is. And tell us about your facility. Do you own it? Do you rent it? Tell us some of your history on what you're dealing with.
I lease the property, and I lease the equestrian center portion of the property. It's a 50-acre farm, and I get about 28 acres of it for the horse facilities. It's 20 stalls. It's heated, and I have an 80 by 180 indoor, and about 100 by 200 outdoor that I get to use. And so, because I lease it, I have to have what we call a dry stall fee. So just the fee for the actual box in order to put a body into it. And I am responsible for much of the upkeep of the property and the maintenance and the damages and all of that. So I have to keep all of that in mind when I'm looking at those numbers.
And you have to pay for the insurance.
Yeah.
You pay rent.
Yep.
You have to pay the repairs. You have
Correct.
to pay staff, I'm assuming, because
Yep.
you don't have time to clean stalls, do you?
I clean stalls on Sundays.
Shut up.
Yeah.
Why?
Why? Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Well, I mean, because when you're looking at it in a business sense, you are the provider, you are the money maker,
Yep.
and it doesn't make any sense for you to clean stalls. Now, I've cleaned stalls, and I still clean stalls because guess what? When someone doesn't show up, I'm doing it.
Exactly.
So, why don't you have someone on Sunday?
So I have somebody full time that works for me Monday through Saturday,
Mm-hmm.
and they want to be with their family on Sunday. I am
Mm-hmm.
looking for somebody to fill in the space on Sunday so that I don't have to do it myself. But as a business owner, you have to do what you have to do. And when I own 10 of the horses myself,
Mm-hmm.
I can choose whether I clean those 10 stalls or not on Sundays. So it might only be 50%. Of course, I'm very, very conscientious of how I keep my barn, so all 20 get done. But if I didn't want to, I wouldn't have to. But also, I feel like I'm not better than any job on the farm either. So anything that I would expect anybody to do for me, I would expect them to do with me, and I would expect myself to be able to do it also.
Mm-hmm.
So as a business owner, I feel like it's really important to be able to roll my sleeves up and get in there and do the dirty jobs.
I think that's an extremely valid point because I have people who work for me and I try to always be communicating with them and I always ask them the time that I allotted to do your job, is it enough? Right? And I think that can go on to another topic, but ooh, let's see here. This is the mindset every business owner needs to have. I'm not sure which one, but I think both of our mindsets.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I do also think that it's important as the business owner to know how much time it does take to clean those stalls on a Sunday. You know, my horses are very fortunate. They live out 24/7 in the really nice months. Obviously, being in Chicago, we have really tough days like we had today and yesterday where they're inside more, but the horses do live outside. So my stalls really aren't that bad. But I would like to know, how long does it take to efficiently clean a stall and do it to my expectations? And then I'm able to pay somebody a decent wage for that job, you know? So.
And okay. And so I think this is another good question. Do you have kids classes, lessons? Do you lease horses? Is it only a training barn? So tell us about the services you offer.
Sure. So I am only a training barn. Clients in my barn own their horses and take lessons on their own horses. Um, like I said, I do own 10 horses. 7 of them are my husband's polo ponies, and 3 of them are my FEI horses. But I do not offer kids lessons. I'm a kid-free zone. And the people in my barn are very serious about learning how to ride. So with my biomechanics focus, that's really my main focus too, is training their horses up the levels and keeping them safe and sound for their riders to be able to come and enjoy when they're able to come.
And my next question, what are the costs that you really focus on when running your boarding training business? Like, what are the biggest costs, I think, that you want to touch on? Because the reason I also want our subscribers and everybody watching to know, you made a post, was it about 2 months ago?
Yeah.
With realistic cost, like what somebody had posted, but then realistic costs for your location. I understand every location is different, but I think most of us know what our numbers should and shouldn't be. And so that's how we became connected. I was like, oh, we need to have a talk. We need to have Tobey on. So tell us, you know, about that and what happened, because I feel like the internet went wild, just like with Eliza's post.
It did. It really did. I was absolutely shocked at how many people commented and posted on that post. Many of which were very positive and supportive, saying, "Gosh, we didn't even know that this is what's involved in taking care of our animals." And then, of course, I got a lot of backlash telling me that, there's a reason my business is called Lux Equestrian because nobody can afford it, which is kind of funny, but it
Really?
happens. Yeah, I think that,
Oh, I
there are a
thought
lot of
your post was very positive. I appreciated your post as a business owner, and I would hope clients and anyone else would appreciate it, no matter what
all of my
discipline.
clients certainly appreciate it. I'm talking about like the general public, people that I think maybe would like to play at that playground but aren't quite there yet. So yes, I am a higher end facility. I have higher end services. I have pretty extensive education when it comes to
Mm-hmm.
horses and my
Mm-hmm.
training. I've been doing this for 36 years and I've traveled, a lot
Mm-hmm.
and have trained with some of the best trainers and big names that are out there. But back to the actual question of like, what numbers do I really look at? All of them.
Mm-hmm.
You have to look at all of them. There's been a big increase recently in um, materials.
Mm-hmm.
I always have felt that paying somebody a livable wage is incredibly important to me. I'm not really somebody that wants to pay somebody to eat ramen noodles for the rest of their life. Um, so I feel like labor has always been the most expensive portion of the business, but now with the droughts that we've had, the rainstorms that we've had, climate change, all of those things, our industry is really dependent on a lot of those natural materials. So our hay seasons have been kind of crazy. Hay has been all over the place, price wise. A bale that
Mine,
used to cost,
excuse me, my hay costs from 2 years ago have gone up 30%.
yeah, I would say a minimum of 30% here.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
You're a little bit further north than I am and have a little bit more um, grass agriculture, hay agriculture than we do here in Kane County. But what used to cost me $55 for a large square of hay that weighs roughly 800 to 900 pounds can range anywhere from $100 to $135. Now, granted, that's delivered,
Mm-hmm.
but that's a huge increase in the
That's
last four or
huge.
5 years. And shavings too. I use bag shavings. I'm very particular about dust and things in the barn, keeping the horses healthy. So bag shavings used to be $4.50, and now they're almost $8 with tax.
Wow. We
So
get a semi. Do you get a semi?
I order a semi load of shavings, yep, and I'm able to get the price down just south of $6. But I have to have that upfront amount of money to put
I was
down.
just
So it's like
I was
six or
just
seven
gonna say
thousand
that.
dollars at every swipe. So
Yep.
it's like you have to really plan ahead. You
You
have to
have to
really
have the
make sure.
cash flow. Yeah.
Exactly.
And
Yep.
like my hay farmer, I'm very grateful. He allows me to make payments because
Oh,
that's a
good.
substantial amount. But we have a good working relationship. But
Sorry, I'm
um,
messing with my
it's
my
it's
volume here.
okay, Toby. But not with the shavings. And I looked around, like I used to get hay from Canada, and
Yeah.
now we have tariffs that are going up and that are going to increase shavings. Obviously, I look around. I looked at bulk. I don't want bulk.
Me either.
It scares me. The dust. I've had breathing issues. What
One of
about vet? What about vet costs?
I think vet costs, as long as you're using kind of high profile veterinarians, the vet costs have been rather consistent in my
Mm-hmm.
area.
Mm-hmm.
I am able to get spring and fall shots clinics done. So everybody in my barn will use the same veterinarian for vaccinations. And they're able to give us a better break on that because it's the group of 20.
Mm-hmm.
But I do think that people who own a single horse who decide to go with their own vet care are seeing increased costs there. I mean, my vets are now charging a fuel surcharge ever since COVID. That hasn't dropped off the bill. That is still something that is done today, even though gas prices have been kind of all over the board and have come back down quite a bit since COVID. That surcharge is still on the bill. So I do think that there are certain costs that have increased and that have stayed there and without a break.
We do have another question that I am going to get to, but are there any other costs that you focus in on? Like, I know my taxes, my insurance has gone
Oh,
up,
insurance. Yeah.
my propane bill, because I have a heated arena. I mean, those
Lucky
are the,
you.
I know, the lucky me, but then on the
But
flip
no.
side, no, not lucky me, because then I also had to change providers. I had a whole issue with the tubes. There was leakage and I was wasting money. You know, it was just going
Oh,
out into the air and no one would help me.
heating outside.
So, you know, so I just wanted to talk about some of the major costs that are going up so people understand. Like, they don't understand the taxes that we have to pay has gone up astronomical, and then my
Yeah.
insurance. But I have to say, my vet costs, I own a lot of horses like you and have stayed the same, which I'm grateful for. But
Very.
again, I think they're in the same boat as we are. And same thing with my farrier. I do think the farriers need to charge more. So that affects the horse owner. I mean, between
It
all of
does.
us.
It
Um,
does.
any other costs that you want to talk about before I get to one of our viewers' questions?
Um, well, I can just go over a little bit of that post that I wrote.
Yeah, love
As
it.
far as costs go, we talked about the shavings and the hay, stall cleaning. If you have a separate business for that, come in and clean the stalls, which I do
Hmm.
Monday through Saturday. That is anywhere from $5 to $12 a stall, depending
Hmm.
upon who the person is that comes to do that job. Add on top of that, then obviously the shavings, how frequently you add them and whatnot. Grain used to, I remember when grain was $12.99 a bag,
Yeah, it's
and now like
25.
I know for the cheapest grain you can buy,
Yes.
it's 25. It's not even like you're getting the premium stuff anymore for that price. So I've purchased grain for $65 a bag for
Yes.
a horse, that needed something special. And I think those are other things that people need to consider when they're choosing a boarding facility. What is included in that board price? Is it what your horse needs, or is it a standard staple across the board? Does every horse get the same thing? And there's a lot of variation there in our industry with that. Labor has gone up exponentially. It used to be, I mean, when I started working, minimum wage was $5.25 an hour,
Mm-hmm.
and it's hasn't gone up that much given the cost of living. Now I think in my area it's $15 is minimum wage,
Mm-hmm.
but I wouldn't want to do the job for $15 an hour.
Mm-hmm.
That's not enough to make it worth it. That's not enough juice to make the squeeze worth it.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and in my situation, I don't have to pay the property taxes because I lease the property. But if I owned the property at 50 acres, gated, with all the amenities that I have, my property taxes would be $50,000 a year.
Mm-hmm.
There, I
Mm-hmm.
think 52,000 on the farm.
Wow.
So that's outrageous.
Yeah, that's
You know,
nuts.
that's nuts. And yes, of course, you have to separate the house from the horse facilities, but the property is 28 acres of equine and the rest of it is agricultural. They lease the farmland out and then the house property. But those things need to be calculated in when you own the property.
Yeah, they
I
all
mean,
do.
your taxes have to be for your equine facilities have to go into your business plan for your equine business. But okay, let's go on to that question.
Yes, we can't miss the question. Sorry,
Okay.
guys. There's so much to talk about. The question was, why are boarding facilities so afraid to raise their board?
Oh, this
Ah,
has been
this
this
is
has been
good.
going around the internet like crazy, like wildfire, especially today, actually. I think people are really afraid to raise the prices because they're afraid to offend their loyal clients,
Yes.
for fear of price gouging. Two, I think that there's so much variation in the industry for pricing.
Yes.
Down the road from me, you can board a horse for $450 for something they call full care. You get
Full
one flake.
care?
You get 1 flake of hay in the morning and 3 flakes of hay at night. So you get 4 flakes of hay for the day, and your horse gets whatever grain the barn provides. Um, and that's it. I mean, the horses get turnout, but that's really it. The indoor arena is small. The amenities are not comparable to what I provide. And then you have somebody like me who's above 1,200 a month for boarding. Um, and it's a huge swing. So I think people are really afraid to raise their price to a point that they can sustain the business because the guy down the road is charging so little or is
Mhm.
subsidizing other people's hobbies or also is afraid to raise the price or has, you know, cornered the market for the backyard boarder that needs a place like they provide. I think if we came together as a community and said, okay, there's 10 barns in our area, 5 of them are similar. Here's a group of 2 that are similar and 3 that are similar. If those 3 that are similar with similar amenities, similar feed programs, come together as a group and say, okay, our base board price should be X.
Mhm.
This is what we're going to charge all 3 of us.
Mhm.
The industry then would have to shift.
Yeah.
You know, the
Thank
horse
you.
owner is going to have to shift. So, I'm comparable to several facilities in my area, and I don't think they charge anywhere near what I charge as far as what you have and what you're offering, I guess is the point. So I think the average board in my area is 1,100.
Mhm.
I'm at 13.
Mhm.
Now, included in my board is, medical care if the horse needs blanket changing, anything that the horse requires, they get at my facility with no extra charges. I don't do extra charges. The place up the road that's 1,100 charges extra for heat. You
Mhm.
get a certain amount of hay for your horse. If you want more, you have to pay extra for that. You provide your own grain and your own supplements if you want something different than what the barn provides. So I think that if all of us got together and said, okay, I'm actually reading that question too.
Yeah.
If we all got together and said, hey, this is our base price. If you want to provide blanketing services and the medical care and all those things, that I include in what I do, this is the base price. And then the consumer gets to choose Coke or Pepsi.
Mhm.
Like we're not Coke or Pepsi, unfortunately.
Yeah. No, I think you bring up some hugely valid points. And like for me, I made a post in our local community barn owners thing, and I asked barn owners if we could come to get together and collaborate. No one responded. Like
Yeah.
how I want us as an industry, and I'm not talking dressage. I'm
No,
talking borders. I'm talking Western. I'm talking saddlebred. I'm talking
hunter
all
jumpers, all of it.
thoroughbred. Everybody.
Yep.
We need to come together because I also like same thing looking at lessons, right? Like I charge $100 a lesson. I'm a certified instructor. There's under, I don't know, maybe 250 of those, right?
Yep.
And then the person down the road is charging $35. Yes, you get what you pay for. But I think as a whole, we need to work together on this boarding situation. I'm also interested, I've seen a collaborating. I don't know if we can collaborate, but like the dairy community works together when someone is suffering, like if they need help or someone's
Mhm.
died or they need to move the cows. I don't see this as much in the horse community. I do see it in California when there's farms, but have you ever thought of collaboration? What are your thoughts on that? And also, Aaron Olson asked me, Megan, why do you think no one responded? A, they're probably working on their farm and too busy to get on the internet. Um, B, I think would you agree, we're lonely. There's only one of us that's an owner. Wouldn't you agree, Toby? And um, I think it's hard for all of us owners to ask for help. I think that's also part of the reason on raising our rates, right? And I think that's just starting to open up. Would you agree?
I would agree with that. I think that I agree with you that nobody responded because we're too busy. We can't get away. But I also think that nobody responded for fear of standing out. If it was a public forum, people don't people don't want to be the black sheep and say, "Hey, I'm the voice of reason. Here's the truth." Chew on it a little bit.
Exactly.
I've also think going back to the collaboration thing, I would love to collaborate with people in this area and have people network and share resources and brainstorm ideas on how to make the businesses more lucrative for those of us that run them. I don't know of any other job aside from being a mother that is a 24/7, 365-day a year job. Not even most dads have to work that hard with their kids, like this owning and running a facility and caring for people's horses is around the clock. I don't sleep many nights because I'm worrying about clients' horses.
Hmm.
This horse didn't poop like it should have before I left the barn. So now I'm all worried about it. And at midnight I go back and I check on it because what
Yeah,
if, you
it's
know?
what we do.
It's what we do. And I'm super lucky and grateful. I have an incredible group of people at my facility that are outrageously supportive and grateful and thankful and are always doing something wonderful for me because they feel that I'm always doing something wonderful for them. But I do think, in the general scheme of things, people feel that they pay for that service, so it's just a given.
Hmm.
And it's like, you know, I don't expect my dentist to wake up at midnight and come over and fill my cavity.
Oh,
Like I have to wait until tomorrow or to business hours, but it doesn't work that way with animals.
no, and
You
then
know,
I have clients that are texting me. Actually, last year I had a client call me and yell at me to get down to the barn to check if she forgot something. Yelled at me, told me to get down there and go find it. She's
Mm,
no longer in my barn,
that's
right?
a good thing. Yeah.
But I mean, I don't think people understand, the job, which I did see somewhere posted that um we should give classes on it. And I thought that was a valid point, but I don't think it's realistic because we all have a role, right, in
Hmm.
this, and they
Yeah.
they have to have a job and work, and but we do need to understand that we're a community. Everyone is a
Yes.
part of this community,
y-
including our clients, right? They
Absolutely.
they have a role, and we have a role to take care of their horses.
Yeah.
Toby, there's a question. Toby,
Okay.
your people, how did you get that group? It was a process. I don't
Was it a
understand.
process? Was it a process? I'm
Okay.
sure. I'm sure they mean, was it a process? Um, Definitely, it was a process. I mean, I've been at this for a very long time. I started the equestrian business in 2017, 2018, and then went full time for it during COVID. And I've had a lot of people through my barn. I've had incredible people through my barn, and I've had other people who didn't fit my business model.
Hmm.
Um, and also, my business, because it's kind of small, on the small side with 10 horses, I feel very strongly that everybody has to get along. And so
Hmm.
I kind of run my business like it's a club,
Hmm.
right? So your price of admission is your board, right? But
Right.
you get this group of supportive, amazing, incredible people who all have the same goal, who all want the best for their horses, who think very similarly about horse keeping and training and the ethics that go along with all of that. And yes, it is a process. You will kiss a lot of frogs before you get the group that I have. There's no doubt about it. I don't know of anybody else that probably has a group like mine. But I've had to send people on their way, and it's not easy.
No.
And a lot of people have gone on their way as I've raised my rates because it's not a playground that they can play in anymore. And there are no hard feelings for that. I fully understand it. I work myself to death in both businesses, and I imagine that everybody else does the same in their business. So when it's time to part ways, it's time to part ways, and I try to do it without hard feelings. Um, doesn't always work that way, but that's the
Yeah.
goal. And for me, it's a business, and I can't afford Fendi handbags and things like that. Um, so I buy my handbags at a discount place, you know? So I don't expect everybody to be for everybody. And I think that that's the biggest problem in our industry, that there's so much variation, um, that it's hard to be competitive, and it's hard to collaborate because there's so much variation. You
Mm-hmm.
know, I mean, you and I could collaborate easily because we run a similar program. I don't have the kids in the lessons that you do, but um, it's the same tier, kind of the same level of experience that we bring to the table and we bring to the farm. I wish you were down the road. I mean, we could
I
we'd
know.
be
I
able to
wish.
do a lot of things together.
I
There
wish
are
that
people in the
too.
yeah, there are people in the area to collaborate with, but it's a very isolating industry.
Hmm.
Everybody's kind of got their nose down and they're grinding.
And I hope we can change that, because what I've always told myself is I'm going to see you the next 30 years in that show ring. You, not your clients. Your clients come and go. And I think that's where people miss the boat in terms of thinking about collaboration. I know trust is hard, but,
Yeah.
and I've had a lot of clients in the area poach my students, which the door is open. If you don't like it, but I think at the end of the day, I'm going to see you for 30 years, maybe more, hopefully more, right?
Yeah.
But w- I want to like you in the show ring. I want to get along with you, and hopefully, we can collaborate, whether it's, the sharing on shavings, like that's
Yeah.
why I wish we were closer, because I think we have the right mindset. It would be nice if other people saw that. And I don't care if you're Western, I don't care if you're hunter jumper. I think
Yeah.
we as an industry, when one discipline, like we have a lot, I don't want to go off topic, but when one of us is getting struck down by abuse, it's hurting all of us. And so
Mm.
right now the prices are what's hurting us. And so how often do you raise your prices? Like, do you do it on a yearly basis?
No, I try not to.
Okay,
I
why?
have
That, because I disagree.
yeah.
And I am with you,
Mhm.
everyone. It's easy to see the faults within myself in others, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
But my farrier, or a previous farrier, raised his rate every year. So
Mhm.
why don't you? Our prices are going up. Why don't you?
So I raise them as necessary. I
Mm-hmm.
don't feel that that is by the calendar. I
Mm-hmm.
feel that that is by the situation.
Gotcha.
And when I moved into this facility at the end of 2020, I was at one price, and I'm now 300 over that. And I feel that that has been able to, or that has allowed me to be pretty consistent in the pricing. So I've had two price increases since
Mm-hmm.
the end of 2020. And, I don't know what the future is going to hold this year. Things are kind of
Right.
all over the place with these tariffs, and not really knowing what our seasons are going to bring. This last hay season was phenomenal for production, but it was garbage for quality.
Yep.
They
Yep.
could not get the hay off the field. It got wet. It was first cutting was
Dusty.
just dusty
Yep.
and garbage, and second cutting the yield was down. Third cutting happened for a few farmers, but it didn't happen for most farmers. That's the
Mm-hmm.
cutting I purchased. I purchased a full year's worth of hay at one time so that I have consistency for my horses.
That
You
hurts.
know, it hurts. It hurts really badly. So, there's a lot of variables here that I'm not really sure what's going to happen in 2025. So I would say for the last 2.5 years, I've been able to keep my prices stable, but who knows in 2025? It may have to happen.
Yeah.
I hope it
And
doesn't, but
And just for the people that are listening that are
Mhm.
barn owners, how do you do that? Do you tell them personally? Do you give them 30 days notice? How do you let them know there's going to be a price increase?
Yeah, it's definitely a personal conversation. I tend to have a barn meeting. Again, I'm a super small facility. I
Hmm.
have, 10 horses with 6 owners. So I am a very intimate group, and we get together frequently, and if I feel the need to have a business conversation, we have a Sunday fun day, and the first part of the Sunday is business, the second part of the Sunday is fun day. So I'm very upfront and open with my clients about the struggles that happen with running the business, because transparency is key. I feel like the more I educate my clients, the more, I don't want to necessarily call it empathy, but the more understanding they have about what it takes to care for their animals. And we all have tough decisions. I've got 10 horses. I need to lose 7. I can't, anybody want a horse? I need to lose 7 because, it's not fair for them to be not working, but it's a stretch when it comes to coming out of my own pocket. And if I didn't have 10 horses, I'd be able to do a lot more things. And I think we all need to make those decisions. So, what's most important? Keeping your horse in the great facility, healthy, consistent hay, consistent shavings, is that important? Or are you able to go to a different facility with less consistency there, a different training program? What concessions are you willing to make as a consumer? And I have those conversations with my girls. We talk about it. Like, what's super important. And I'm different in that I focus on the biomechanics, and I do a lot of body work and nerve release work and things with the horses. So I have kind of a niche business, and people that come into my group fall hard for it. So I'm very fortunate. And they say, we could leave and we might be able to get consistent hay somewhere else, but we're not going to get the consistent ethical training that we get with you. So whatever it takes. And I'm fortunate in that way.
I love that. You're inspiring me, because I'm open, but I don't think I'm that open, right?
Yeah.
And I think a lot of times then, like, I'm struggling alone. And I
Yeah.
share that because I think what has happened is a lot of us have been struggling alone and maybe not knowing how to ask for help or the right person, because in the past, actually, we haven't been treated nice by our clients. I mean, that is another topic to talk about in the future. That I
Yeah,
haven't had a lot of situations, or, so I just want to share that. I think that's very inspiring that you're that open.
thank you.
And I'm going to work towards being maybe a little bit better at that.
Yeah. It allows people to feel like they're part of the team.
Right.
That they have some decisions that they get to make about their horses. I want my ladies to know that we have a choice. I can order really crappy hay and we can keep prices where they are, or I can continue to give them the level of service and the level of quality that they expect from me, but it comes at a price, and what do we want to do?
I love it.
And I will tell you that every single time they say, you do whatever you have to do to keep doing what you're doing. And so I do.
I love it.
Yeah, super lucky.
We had a question, and it was, do you think 30 days is enough? If someone feels they can't afford the jump, is 30 days enough for them to be able to leave? What are your thoughts on that?
Whew. So again, I feel that it costs what it costs. And this kind of goes back to the original point that I made about, certain playgrounds. I'm not out there buying Fendi handbags. And if
Yep.
they can live off of, a Target or a Walmart handbag, and that makes them comfortable and happy, then that's the type of facility that they need to be finding if they can't truly afford to be with you. Now, again, I'm fortunate in that I'm super transparent and my girls all support me to the end of the earth. However, 30 days is enough notice. I think that, McDonald's doesn't give us any notice when they're going to
None.
increase the prices. Fuel prices go up without any notice. There are fluctuations, and we deal in a lot of commodities. So
Yeah.
to expect us to give more than a 30-day notice for a price increase, I believe is asking quite a bit
And I have
from us.
actually, I agree. And I have had that. And also, I think, speaking for barn owners, I think that's what makes us nervous to raise the price,
Yeah,
is because I have lost clients,
me
and
too.
and it hurts.
It does.
But then at the end of the day, we fill that spot with maybe someone who's a better fit, and it takes that stress, that negativity out of it. But like,
Mm.
my hay costs, my propane, my taxes, I never know that those prices are going to go up, and then I get like, the clutch goes out in the tractor. That
Yeah.
wasn't in my projections for the year, like in repairs and maintenance, right?
Yeah.
So
Got to learn how to do that yourself, girl.
you got, yeah, you're so right. So I think I agree with you. 30 days is enough, but I think that's why we're leery. We have
Yeah.
another question. Every boarder should have another boarding barn in mind if circumstances change, meaning price, horses needs, moving. I find that sad.
I do too.
For me as a horse trainer, as a barn owner, um, and that's something we may not want to talk about here because we're talking about cost, but
Mhm.
and it hits home right now actually because a lot of my clientele has been with me for 10 plus years, someone even at 25,
Oh,
and
wow.
you become family, and when someone switches a trainer, it kills you
Yeah.
because I've bent over backwards for them, and it does make me wake up and like, I like your attitude, this is a business, but at the end of the day, after 10 years, you're a family.
Yeah.
And when someone is always thinking about going somewhere else, that does hurt
It
because
does.
it's I think this business, it is a business, but it's different, but you have the emotion of the horse. Like, I care for every horse in my barn. I love them.
Me
Would you
too.
agree? What are
100%.
what's your thoughts?
I think it's an emotional business.
Hmm.
I think the whole industry is an emotional business. I think that people are incredibly emotional about their animals, and I think that the majority of horse owners allocate more of their resources to their horses than they do themselves. I would say that as a horse owner, I know I certainly do that. So I think it's a super emotional business.
Hmm.
And when you have to get down to brass tacks
Hmm.
with people that you have an emotional connection with, it's not an easy conversation. I mean, that's
No.
why 50% of Americans are divorced, finances create fights. um, but the reality of it is, I am not in a position, I'm not independently wealthy, I'm not a trust fund, I'm self made. So I have to be able to crack the nut in order to take care of the horses at the level and the expectation that I've already set forth. And if people can't afford that, I fully understand that. This goes back to that original conversation. But the notion of somebody always having a backup plan is really an unsettling feeling for me.
Me
I
me
invest
too.
all of myself into my clients and my horses and their horses, and I would hope that they would feel that they would want to do the same for me. My group 100% does. I'm so fortunate. I can't say that enough. But it hasn't always been that way.
Hmm.
There have been
I'm
a
a
lot of
little
people.
I'm a little envious. I'm not going to lie, but I'm also very happy for you
Yeah,
because it
thank you.
didn't happen by luck,
No,
right?
no,
You made
it
it.
didn't. I made it. I believe that if you put enough good out in the universe, you'll get good back. And
Um,
thankfully, I feel like I'm there.
oh, it just went away. Darn it.
Oh,
Oh, a comment was a lot of boarders played the family card and expect favors for no money. It doesn't sound like that's in your
no.
facility, but also that's where I think, it just goes back to facts. These are the finances, and we can't sustain other people's horses.
Yeah, I
Um,
think too. I think part of that, though, to that person's point, is that because it is emotional
mhm.
and they're emotional about their animals, they feel that they want a little extra. And I'm super candid with my people in my barn. I sometimes can be considered a little too upfront, but I say, do you go to PetSmart and buy a bag of dog food and then be like, oh, Fluffy really would like a second one. I'm just going to pick it up and take it home without paying for it? Like, that doesn't happen. So, you can't come to the barn and say, okay, if your barn is set up with a structure that you get 6 flakes of hay a day or whatever it is, you can't come in there and say, I need 12.
I can't take a bail. I've had that question
Yeah,
all the time.
yep. And it's like,
I said,
no, because we have to ensure that we have it. I purchase it once a year.
mhm.
you know, I can't. I feed freely, very freely, and our horses are fed almost around the clock. But there are facilities that aren't doing that, and those are the lower dollar facilities that are struggling to get by. And those, unfortunately, are the same boarders that feel that they do deserve the extra 2 flakes of hay at night or whatever it is. And that really hits the bottom line pretty significantly when you add that up over a year.
And that leads into my next question is, in your budget, do you plan to pay yourself also when you look at, I'm comparing to vets, right?
Mm-hmm.
Each time we call them or they get we need a little something extra at the vet visit, right? Like some vet rep. Do you
Mm-hmm.
charge for your time besides the lessons? And is that a thought that we should think about with the constant barrage of text messages or being stopped? If it's going to
Yeah.
be an hour plus or even 30 minutes, because that's an hour taken away doing something else.
Yeah, so in my contract, I actually have it written that extra services are extra dollars
Mm-hmm.
and that I have the right to charge for those things. I love my group so much that I never end up charging them for those things because I feel that I get my return on that is so much more than I feel like my give is on that.
Mm-hmm.
So, for example, I just recently had a horse in the barn that's relatively new to us, blew an abscess.
Mm-hmm.
And I took care of the horse. The owner was out of town, and I took care of the horse and notified her what was going on and took care of him like he was my own. And she was like, "Okay, well, I'm going to pay you for all of that."
Oh, I
And I
love
was like,
her.
"I love her too." All of my women are like this, all of them. And I was like, it really wasn't that much sweat off my back. I'm glad to see that he's not lame anymore, and we're going to be able to do some things moving forward with him. So the next day, I get a care package from her with all of the supplies and all of the things that I would have possibly have ever used for the horse. And to me, that's enough because now I have enough supplies to take care of the next horse if that were
Mm-hmm.
ever to happen, or somebody else's horse if that were ever to happen. So it really depends upon the group.
Mm-hmm.
If I were a major boarding facility and I had a lesson program or something like that, I may be more apt to charge for those line
Right.
items.
Yeah.
But again, I'm super fortunate,
Yeah.
and my girls know what it takes to run the place, and they know what I give to their animals. So if it were a true business, yes, I would charge
Yeah.
for, a boarding business, but it's a little bit deeper than that at my place.
And that's your choice, but
Yeah,
I am the same way, but I'm starting to change,
yeah,
due to experiences, due to also bottom line.
yeah,
And but also as I look at the vet business, I'm like, they're not doing things for free, and they charge per
yeah,
minute, and
yeah,
as they should. I'm not saying they're doing anything wrong, but it is nice to feel appreciated as well.
for sure.
And I love it when I'm appreciated. I
Yeah,
totally agree, but I think that's something we as barn owners need to think about. And I also, the question too, to poke at barn owners, don't you think it's also our responsibility, that we are in this situation, right? I'm not blaming us
mhm,
because I'm part of the problem as well, but that we also need to take ownership of um feeding ourselves first. I mean, when we
yeah,
get on the airplane, they tell us to put on the oxygen mask first. How, if we're stressed, if we're resentful, if we don't look forward to a client, we also need to make the change,
yeah.
right? You agree?
I
And
totally agree. I think that's a hard change to make.
very.
Somebody posted today on one of the barn owner groups that I'm part of, um, just about this exact topic, and I recommended that they join us. I hope they're here. But that they can't kick anybody out of their barn because losing one person makes it an impossible nut to crack. And at some point, you gotta you gotta go, okay, what is the cost of doing business? How many horses, how many warm bodies does it take in the seats to make that happen? And can I do it with empty stalls in my barn? And if the answer is no, then you need to raise your prices so that you can do it with an empty stall in your barn because you will always have turnover. You will
Mhm.
always have
Mhm.
an empty stall in your barn. You know,
Mm-hmm.
you may be full for 2.5 years, but 2 years and 6.5 months, you may be empty in that one stall. So you kind of need to be projecting ahead, thinking that you need to be able to roll things for a couple of months with an empty stall so that you can get rid of the difficult situation. I don't know how else
Yeah.
to put that, like the person that either can't afford it that has to leave because you've raised your prices, and again, I'm very transparent with my people going back to this 30 days enough and how do you raise your board? What is the average board increase? I actually don't know because I don't do anything based on averages at my place. I do everything based on facts and what's in front of me. But I've heard people leaving barns over a $25 increase,
Yep. I have too.
you
And
know?
honestly, I'm like you. I haven't raised my rates consistently. And I also have I have diversified, right? So I sell horses. I
Yeah.
have a lesson program. I had 5 instructors. I have
Wow.
a kids camp. So I have a lot going on,
Yeah,
right? However,
that is a lot.
a lot of that was paying for my horses in training. You
Hmm.
know, you need to really reevaluate. And I'm the biggest. I will say I'm no better than anyone else, but I'm looking around and going, wait a minute, we need to make some changes, and I'm a part of that problem.
Yep.
And so I am doing my numbers and I'm reevaluating. And this year and last year, I've had to raise my prices, but on training, right? Because
Hmm.
I've had the question of, is boarding sustainable? And I actually think it is. If someone had a business plan to start with and had their projections and structured it in the appropriate way, I think it is sustainable if you run your business that way. And the policies are open and out there. Wouldn't you
Yeah.
agree?
I do think it's sustainable, but I think it's only sustainable at a point at which the business is able to turn a profit.
Mm-hmm.
Currently, the climate in my area is that it's not turning a profit for 85 to 90% of the facilities. I have maybe a dozen facilities around me, two of which are in bankruptcy.
Wow.
Yep. And six of which, I think 5 or 6 of which, have recently changed hands.
Wow.
So it's an alarming rate at which facilities are closing or changing hands um, down here. And I mean, even when we owned Lamplight, my family ran the boarding facility for 6.5 or 7 years, and it was a losing battle. So they closed the boarding facility and made it the show place that it is, um, because it was too difficult to
Yeah.
manage. It's like having an apartment complex
Yeah.
with very kind of diversely demanding residents. You know,
And we have the same issue in Madison. I would say maybe there's been 3 to 5 barns that have closed. I
yeah,
mean, that's scary.
that is.
That's
And what did
really,
they turn into? Did they sell or did they just close or are they private? Like what did they become?
my understanding is they just closed. Well, one was turned into homes. Actually, I think
Okay.
maybe 2 of them were homes. The other one just closed their doors. So yeah, again, I'm not real. I'm too busy working trying to make
Yeah.
money to know what's going out there.
Yeah,
I This is actually really good for me because I'm meeting new people and
that's
and
good.
hopefully being able to start that collaboration. I think we have a question. I think the average is not the same anymore. We're talking raising a few hundred now and getting over 1,000 a month to make a difference and making it profitable for the owner. And I would say the average price around Madison, I mean, anyone can correct me if I'm wrong, it's around $500 for board. Okay,
Wow.
so Jane, boarding barn is under 1,000 to 1,100, and it's not going to make it anymore. And like I did my numbers, and it's a to make it it's $800, and that was a couple years ago without the increase, right? So I'm in the same boat.
My
Yep.
post in my area said, if you're not paying $1,215 a month, you're not paying enough.
Yeah.
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 Because
I
that's the nut right there for me per horse.
This is one of the only businesses where power and operators don't adhere to actual business principles. I think that's true.
Yeah.
Wouldn't you agree? Yeah.
Yeah.
But I think our industry has hit ahead. I think we've really come to the fork in the road. And either our industry is going to move forward, or we're not going to have horses. And I think the reality that needs to be said is I don't think the average person is going to be able to afford horses, which makes me incredibly sad, which is why I actually started my lesson program,
Yeah.
because I thought I could make money. With multiple instructors, and people could ride horses, but they couldn't own the horse, right?
Mhm.
And then they still have that experience. Um,
Yeah, I feel like in my situation in my lifetime, I've never really felt that horses were for the average person. I feel that we're all incredibly privileged to be able to have horses because they are a luxury. You know,
mhm,
it's not a cat or a hamster or something like that that's a pet in the home. It is an animal that has to be cared for, either on your own property with your own blood, sweat, and tears, or somebody else's.
mhm,
So
mhm.
it's a high-end luxury life.
Part of making board sustainable is factoring in those upfront costs of hay, shavings, capital improvements, insurance, and 4 months of operating capital. I totally agree. And I think
Yeah.
going back to Eliza's survey, which was 1,500 professionals, that most of us, I do, but most of us don't come with a business plan. They don't come
Yeah.
looking at accounting, and nor do they touch it, or maybe they have somebody else do it. So I think that's the first step. And I think that's also why you're successful, is because you
Yeah.
have that background and you do it. Even though you don't like it,
Yeah.
you do it.
Yeah.
And what I love most is you're transparent.
I feel it's a really important thing. You know, I think that the more people know, the better people can be.
Mhm.
You know, so that goes for training and for business. And I've seen posts on Facebook for people asking for total transparency and that they tell them exactly what their costs are and things like that. I'm not that transparent because those things fluctuate.
Mhm.
I'm a wheeler dealer. I love making deals with people, and
Mhm.
you know
Yeah, as you
I
should.
I go to I go to hay farmers and
Yeah.
sweet talk them and figure out a way to get the best deal for the product that I want. And sometimes I pit them against each other. And I think that comes again from the business savvy sense that I have from my other business, where
Mhm.
negotiation is a big part of survival in business. And so I kind of have that art down um, to a science, I guess you could say. So I'm not afraid to ask for a bulk
Yeah.
discount. I am not afraid to ask for something that I need to have um, for a reduced rate. But on the same side of that coin, or the flip side of that coin, is I am prepared to purchase for a
Mhm.
year,
Mhm.
you know? And
Mhm.
so I think bargaining power, and that goes back to that whole collaboration thing,
Mhm.
a lot of farm owners in my area may not be able to purchase for an entire year. But why can't we put our purchasing power together?
Exactly.
Why can't we get two semis worth of shavings? I'll take one, and three barns can split the other semi.
Exactly. That's
And
why I
I
wanted to
wish,
get together with the
yeah,
Madison area people. Let's work together so we can stay in
yep,
business.
exactly.
And also this year I looked at my insurance, and the other thing I did, I was paying monthly for my, this is auto insurance.
Oh, okay.
I still haven't
Yes.
figured, I can not
Makes
get
my skin crawl.
my professional liability down, and it keeps going up hundreds of dollars every year. But this year I
Mhm.
asked, could we pay in total for a year, it will save me $500. five hundred
Yeah,
dollars
yeah,
So I
it's a
think
lot.
barn owners that are listening, this is where you need to look at your numbers and look at your high expenses and see where you can cut your expenses.
Yeah.
Again, it always goes back to the numbers. Okay, so now we need to know boarding prices must increase. The question of the hour is, how do we do it and do it safely without being scared we will lose all our borders. I mean, I think you nailed it on the head, Toby.
Yeah.
You know, maybe, well, and I did at the USDF convention, a woman stood up and she said she actually showed her numbers to her people in training to explain why the price had to go up. I don't know if you need to go that far,
No.
but I think being transparent, and everybody can look around and see we're all struggling, all of us, a
Yeah.
whole country, not even just the horse world, and we need to figure out how to work together. And again, what can clients do? That was another one of my questions because we are a community. Do your clients come to you and say, "What can I do to help you?" I mean, I have
Every day.
some clients. Yeah,
Every day.
right, right
Yeah.
there.
I mean, I recently changed my health situation at my farm, and I have a guy now that works Monday through Saturday. My previous people worked Tuesday through Sunday. So Sundays are my lesson days. I teach a ton of lessons back to back, and now I'm I'm it. So I'm cleaning stalls, doing turnout, teaching the lessons, taking care of, the horses, all of it. And
Superwoman.
some days. And it's freezing cold here in Chicago. So this weekend we didn't have lessons, and two of my clients came out and did all of the chores with me.
Amazing.
Amazing, right? And so what do? We go to lunch. We have a good time together. We talk about, summer and our hopes for competition season and all of that. And we come together and they are willing to help me when they see me struggling. And I think the biggest thing is, again, it's a very emotional connection that we have with these people. Now, in a boarding facility where you've got 85 horses and they're just numbers, and the people are just numbers, you're not going to get the type of assistance that I get because it's not as intimate, it's not as personal, it's not as boutique like in catering to the client. But I do think that the majority of clients would be willing to kick in and help if they were asked. And they may not be able to financially kick in any more than what they currently are, but maybe they could offer to come and water the horses on a day,
Hmm.
you know.
Or clean
Well,
stalls.
yeah, I won't let my girls clean stalls. I'm like, no, 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 you pay for that, you pay for that. Also, I'm very picky about the stalls,
but
but
you know what?
but watering takes 45 minutes.
Yeah.
My barn takes 20 minutes because I've got 20 horses, but an average boarding facility that has 30 to 45 horses, that's 45 minutes. That is a
Hmm.
huge chunk of time that I could be doing something else, either to make money teaching a lesson or something else that somebody's just taken off my plate, and that's a huge gift,
Huge,
you know.
huge. Because the other thing I want to talk on, cost wise, is training people. So,
Mhm.
oh, before we even start, we have a question. A collaborative feeling would be beneficial to all of the reasons you've touched
Mm.
upon. However, part of a business plan is how to beat your competitors. How does that balance work? I disagree. I think a business plan, oh, I'll let you speak, Toby.
Obviously we all have competitors, and it depends upon what realm of competition I guess you would like to be part of. Right? So for me, working in collaboration with everybody else in my area, um, I don't think would be a threat to my business, simply because I am already very set apart from everybody else in my training program, in my rehab program for the horses that have the trauma, and the biomechanics training and the riding instruction. So for me, I don't think that collaborating with other barn owners in my area would really put me in jeopardy of losing anything.
Agreed.
Um, could I say the same for somebody else's business? No. I've had people from other facilities that I've met at those facilities want to come and be part of my team, like at a clinic or something like that. And I've actually turned those people away. I said, I'm not here for that. And I think that's part of being an upstanding business person, that you have to be able to say, now's not the time. So, for example, I went to this clinic and I met a wonderful woman, and she asked me if I would give her lessons. And I said, I'm here for a learning experience myself. the host of this clinic is also an instructor. You should talk to them about lessons. And she didn't want to hear that. And so a couple weeks later, she called me privately and said, I really would like to work with you. And I said, well, I'm now open to having the conversation, because it wasn't in somebody else's house.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And so there's a level of professionalism that we can all take part in
Mm-hmm.
that preserves everybody's business while we collaborate.
I
And that's a code of ethics.
I totally agree, because I used to put on clinics and other trainers would come into my facility and try to get my clients. And
happens to me all the time.
I know you did it.
Yep. Yeah,
But
I know you did it.
But
Yep.
I think in terms of running a business and sharing hay, shavings, grain, some way that we can help each other minimize our expenses, I don't think we're competitors. I think we're in the muck together.
Yep.
And if we don't see that as professionals, our industry is going to go nowhere. And we're hurting all of us. There's something bigger here. And like I said at the beginning of this conversation, I'm going to see you for 30 years. I'm not going to see your clients for 30 years. We need to wake up. It's short-term gains over long-term.
I would agree with that.
Yeah.
And I in my area, I have provided hay for other people who've run into a problem or found themselves falling short and haven't been able to come up with hay in a tough season. And I buy everything in excess and surplus because I'm a planner like that. So I've had people call me and say, hey, I need shavings. I need hay. What do you have? Can you help me? Of course I can help you.
Same.
I will help anybody.
Yep. I'm the same. I had a friend of mine, Hunter Jumper, her barn closed on her, and I don't board horses, but I boarded horses for her because I thought if I'm in the same boat and my horses need to go somewhere, I'm going to open the door. So I think we need to see ourselves as community, but also I think as professionals, we need to train our customers. They are a part of the community. This isn't just a service. Without them, we don't survive. But then also without us, they don't have these wonderful opportunities, right? So it's also educating. I love that. Educating your students and then also not being afraid of firing them. I think that's okay.
Ladies, I'm never going to fire any of you that are already in my barn. You're with me forever. I'm not losing this group.
And again, like I said, I think that's wonderful. I just wanted to share to other barn owners. I realized maybe about 7 years ago, I had a lot of toxic people around me. And what I did was I put all of my clients on a spreadsheet, and I sat down with my assistant and we graded them. And what we graded them on was not what you think. It was on joy. Does this person bring me joy? I see you every day. And, part of obviously, do you pay me on time? But really what was more important to me is, do you bring me joy? Do I cringe when I see your car, or do I look forward to seeing you? Right.
I have a rule about that. If I cringe more than 3 times up my driveway, the 4th time is the last time down the driveway for them. It's only happened to me twice in 35 years. So.
Oh, you see, you're lucky, but I think you made that luck.
Thank you.
Janessa said, thank you. I really love this talk of collaboration and sticking together a bit, spreading the education. It's our responsibility, I think, as professionals.
It really is. I mean, go ahead.
Yeah, no, go.
I feel very strongly that we have to educate not only the people in our barn, but the people that we see at the horse shows and the people that we see at the feed store and the people that we see anywhere. I mean, I make conversations all the time with people at the feed store when they're picking up a bag of grain. I'll say, hey, can I help you with that? And I'll put it on the counter for them. I'll be like, can you believe how expensive this has gotten? Just to create awareness. You're not buying the 99-cent cup of coffee anymore. You're buying a $6 Starbucks.
Mm-hmm.
You're not buying a $12.99 bag of grain anymore. It's now $25. Did you notice? Did you notice that? You know,
Yes.
so I try to create awareness in really kind of fun and playful ways in different um venues, you know, that aren't just my barn. I mean, again, the people in my barn know exactly what it takes. But I don't think the average boarder in an average boarding facility is really privy to that. So, you know, having some idiot like me in the feed store being like, hey, can you believe how expensive that's gotten? Might make them take pause when they get in their car and go, oh my God, you know, my $25 bag of grain lasts me a week for my horse, right? If I'm lucky. That's $100 a month at a minimum, at a 2 pounds a feeding or whatever it is. I'm paying $6.50 a month and I'm paying $100 for grain. Like, yeah, okay, so where do you think the other $550 is going? You know, like we have to have these conversations. Like,
Yeah,
has to be said.
we really
Education.
do.
Yeah.
Let me see here. I'm looking at all my questions. Do we
Oh,
have any questions from subscribers? Oh, do you use an accounting system? Like, do you use QuickBooks? I
I
use
do.
QuickBooks.
I do.
You do as well.
Yeah.
Awesome. I
Yeah.
highly recommend that.
I do too. It allows you to know exactly where you are
Yeah.
and what you have to be able to get where you need to go, you know? Like when I buy my hay, I know exactly how much money I have to spend on hay and if I need to borrow from myself,
Mm-hmm.
you know.
Yeah. And I love the reports. Like I go in and I check like and then you can compare from last year to this year. I think that's really helpful in terms
Yeah,
of knowing whether you need to raise your prices.
I would agree.
Um you got to be looking at your reports and comparing from years. How often do you look at your P&L report?
Whew. Probably twice a month.
Okay.
Yeah.
At once a week.
Yeah. I need to do better. Like I
Hey,
said, I like to bury my head in the sand on that.
yeah, but you know what? To be honest, I think you're ahead of the curve,
I am.
honestly,
Yep.
after realizing about the survey. And that's why I am very passionate about this topic. Do you do any annual budget projection? God, I can't talk tonight.
Projection.
Projection.
Of course. You have to. But again, like I touched on earlier, you know, there's so many variables that are unknown. You
Mm-hmm.
know, are we going to have a decent hay year?
Mm-hmm.
Are are the mills going to be producing my shavings or am I going to have to bring them down from Canada now with a 25% tariff?
Not
You know,
anymore.
like I mean, what's happening, you know? I don't know the answer um to the penny on that projection anymore. It used to be you could go, okay, I could be within a couple $1,000 here for the year, but now it's like it could swing 10
No.
grand
Yeah. Or 20.
or 20. Yeah.
Um, yeah, for me, I do projections at the end or the beginning of every year. Probably December is my season and I love it because then I put in all the horses and I see like, oh, we're going to make money or we're not or
Hmm.
what can I adjust? But then if I lose a horse or it's out the window. And the other thing that I do is I have my mother and I also have an accountant that comes. Well, the accountant comes quarterly, and then my mom has owned two businesses, and I hate having her look at my numbers, but I also love it because she asks me the hard questions. Like
Yeah.
she'll ask me the question, "Why is the vet bill so high?" And I'm like, "Can't cut it. Sorry." But
Yeah.
then she'll go, "What about repairs and maintenance?" And I'll go, it's been 10,000 every year. This is the way it's going to be, right? But then she really pokes at me in a way and I'm like, okay, I go back and think about it. So, do you have advisors? Do you have people that poke at you? I think it's good to have a support group poking you.
Yeah. I have one that pokes at me, but it's not welcome. No, I mean, my husband's in business and he's runs some pretty major Fortune
Mhm.
500 companies on the C-suite, and so he's always kind of my reality check,
Yeah,
you know,
we need it.
and has helped me a lot with the businesses. And obviously he owns 7 horses, so he's a key contributor to keeping my
Mhm.
business running. But at the same time, I agree with you. It's good to have somebody that kind of makes you squirm every once in a while to realize that you need to shift, you need to pivot. Um, and sometimes you don't need to pivot, and that feels really good.
Mhm.
There's
Yep.
sometimes when you're like, I got all the answers and we're looking pretty good. Yeah. Let's go on vacation. No, I'm just kidding. I haven't been on vacation in, I don't know, a long time. Not sure. I don't know of too many barn owners that get to go on vacation.
Yeah, yeah, I
Yeah.
don't, but you know what? I do think we need to make it a priority. I
Yeah.
will say I do getting away. So I leave for the winter,
Lucky you.
and I go, but people are like, "Oh, you're on vacation." No,
No.
I save all year to do
Mhm.
this.
Yeah.
And it is stressful. It's also continuing education,
Yeah.
but it's also time to like I love being a client, right? So have you been a client, right? Like
Yeah.
just like you said, do you also do the stalls. So you know what your employees do, but also what's it like to be a client? And the first time I did it, I was nuts. Like I was such a bad client. I was a control freak. And then I finally let go. So it's good to know what it's like to be a client, first
Yeah.
of all.
I'm the
Do,
opposite when I'm a client. I am
yeah.
just so grateful somebody else is doing all the shit that I am not having to do. So I am like the best client anybody could ask for, because I'm like, "Oh my gosh, you're so wonderful. What can I bring you today?" Like I just am so grateful to not have to do it all. Um, but I haven't been a client for a very long time.
Yeah.
You know,
Well,
it's been years.
I'm much better now, right? Like that first winter, like something broke and I was like, can I help you? Whatever. And they were like,
Yes.
no, you're a client. And I was like, what? You can walk away. And no, I'm so appreciative to this time that I can teach virtual lessons. This is also the time I work on my business. I've been really focused on Barn Besties, focused on my riding, right?
Mhm.
You need to be able to do that, and your business needs to be able to afford that. So that way you're not stagnant and you keep
Yeah.
growing and you keep learning.
I think that goes into that whole burnout situation for barn owners too. The
Yeah.
finances are a major part of it, but rolling it into the burnout it's kind of one and the same.
Mm-hmm.
I think that we get burned out because we feel that we can't take time off, that we can't do what we want to do for ourselves and have a work life balance, because it's not really a job that is a work life balance. There is no balance. It's
No.
totally out of balance. And so I know for myself that I feel horribly guilty not being around taking time for myself.
Yeah.
I mean, I feel horrible about it, you know?
Yep.
And and I don't take a day off either. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, I've worked 7 days a week for the past 5 years. Um I did take 2 weeks off this summer. One was intentional, which was a
Good for you.
5 year in the making time away. And thank you. And the second one was a tragic accident with my
Mm.
father that ended him in the ICU. So I had to go and be with him in the ICU up in Minnesota. But I felt horribly guilty the whole time I was gone, that I wasn't there providing for my clients what I normally provide for them. And I think that's a broad sweeping statement for most barn and owners and trainers.
Oh,
We invest so much.
I think we all agree, but I think it's also something we could learn from the Gen Zs. Honestly, I think we do need to take time for ourselves because when we're so stressed, how can we give our best to our horses? And I
Yeah.
think our customers, our clients, our students should be worried about that because if we're not at our best, right,
Yeah.
and we are burnt out, we can't give you our best. I think that's the
Yeah.
reality. We did have a question from Jan. You can talk about not one more vet, and it's a
Oh,
serious issue. You can
yeah.
say that for barn owners also. You have to prioritize yourself to be the best for your board. Thank you, Jan. I just said that. I
Yeah.
totally agree. And I've
We
said
totally
that
agree.
to my vet as well. I
Yeah.
think it's a serious issue. And so what do you do? Like, because you don't take days off. What about you?
What about me?
I'm putting you on the spot, lady.
Oh, what do I do? Well, I have found that kind of my work life balance involves the horses, and so for me, I've focused a lot on kind of a different modality with the horses, and it's about regulating their nervous system. I deal a lot with the horses that have a lot of trauma, that have either previous training trauma, have been deemed dangerous. A couple have
Mm,
been on the road to being put down because
mm,
they're unmanageable, and through this nervous system regulation, they've been able to turn around 100%. So I kind of utilized that modality on myself
why
in
not?
that, yeah, and that I learned to just self-regulate and say, you know what, this is it. I can just tick like the clock, just tick, tick, tick away at this. Nothing is pressing, nothing's overly stressful, nothing's emergent, and I sustain myself that way. So, you know, getting a week off every couple of years is a really huge gift.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm not burned out because I have an incredible group of people in my barn. And I also use the time that I do have, my downtime, in continuing my education and also focusing on this regulation and being able to bring myself kind of back to reality.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not a brain surgeon. I don't have somebody on the table that's about to die in front of me once a day, So I feel very fortunate that I'm able to kind of take a deep breath and go at my own pace versus
Mm-hmm.
that being regulated by somebody else. So I feel that people who are not able to get their numbers to make sense maybe live a little bit more stressful barn life situation than I do.
Yeah, I love it. I think you're a
Yeah.
great role model.
Thanks.
I really do hope that
Thank you.
people that are watching and view this is so important. I mean,
Yeah,
we serve horses, and if we don't have you as a role model to show us the way, like the horses are going to suffer. So think about
I
that
do.
when you're not taking care of yourself. So thank you. Thank you for
Yes,
sharing
for
that.
sure.
Um,
There's another question here. It looks like,
yeah. How do you determine how much staff you need for number of horses? Is there a ratio in your head where you realize you need another staff member?
definitely. I'm sure you can speak to this too. Um, my husband played polo for quite a while, so we kind of had a number in mind when it comes to polo grooms and what the horses require for that. And that number is 10. The guys can handle 10 horses. Any more than 10 horses, you have to add another person. So,
One guy per 10?
yeah,
Whoa.
yeah. I mean,
Okay.
when it comes to riding season, we drop
Yeah.
that number down to 6, but just the cleaning, maintenance, grooming, taking care of the horses, it's about 10. For my business, I think one guy can handle all 20 horses
Mm-hmm.
with no problem, with a day off. And again, because my horses live outside, my feeding program's a little bit different in the nicer months. So they can easily handle the 20. In the
Mm-hmm.
winter, it's a little bit more labor intensive with the back and forth, but in the summer times, it's pretty easy to do.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Now, I also have no problem pitching in, so
Mm-hmm.
I consider myself the second man.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and if I decide that I want the horses to stay outside past the time the guy goes home because it's beautiful out, I'll feed dinner that night.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so I think for 20 horses you can get away with 1 to 1.5 positions. So one
Mm-hmm.
full time and one part time.
Well, and I would say I need three, and not including myself. And I have, but that's with a 24 stall barn. So yeah, that would be right around the same, I guess, wouldn't it? To
Yeah,
keep
I
the
have two
10.
and a half because I do have a stall cleaner. My guy
Yeah.
that works for me full time does not clean my stalls.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess, yeah,
Yeah.
I guess we're at 2 for my 20 stall barn and you're at 3 for your 24.
I would love four, but
Yeah.
yeah, but I'm also every year do you find that you're reinventing yourself? Or maybe not every year. This is the first year I've had specific person as a barn manager. I also um am wondering if we're moving away from the working student position. What are your
Oof.
thoughts on that?
I wish we weren't,
I know.
simply because I feel like the training element of that is so important,
Mm-hmm.
for horse husbandry and
Mm-hmm.
ethical training.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but I do think we are moving away from that because a couple of reasons, really. But yeah, I think that the barn management role, that's an interesting conversation. I consider myself the barn manager,
Mm-hmm.
and I have my guys, the one guy that cleans the stall and the one guy that does the full-time work, and then any of the leftover is left on me. Um, Paying somebody to be a barn manager at a facility of my size is financially impossible,
Mm-hmm.
especially because I lease.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and there are really not enough tasks for that person to do, because I don't have the lesson program that you have. I don't have the kiddie camps and those types of things
Mm-hmm.
that I need. I need a second body to do those jobs for me. I think that you're kind of in a unique situation there too. You know,
Well, it hurt, but I think it was also out of um, need for both of us. I feel very fortunate for the situation. I've always had working students. And again, two parts. I think we're moving away from that because I think some in the past have been taken advantage of, the working
for sure.
students, right? So you have that issue. But I'm very sad because I mean, I would prefer someone to study under me for 3 to 4 years. I think that's going to the wayside because I
Mhm.
think people really need to immerse themselves in a barn like mine or yours to learn
I do
and to
too.
really understand what it's like to be a trainer. So to me, it makes it very sad. And also, I found I've loved mentoring people and I want to pass on my knowledge to people. But finding people who really want to learn and work as hard and as crazy as I am is really hard. It is a hard job.
It is a hard
So
job.
yeah, I
Yeah.
it makes me sad because I always had roughly two working students and um and then 2 to 3 stall cleaners. So I would have 5 people, and
Oh,
then that doesn't even include the instructors that I
yeah.
had. So you can see what a big operation is. And then I was
Yeah.
always the barn manager, but then I found I couldn't find a working student.
Yeah. I'm looking for one right now. It's not
Hear that,
easy.
guys?
Yeah.
She's looking for a working student.
I
Give
am.
her a call.
I am.
So, but yeah, I think that's also too what's hurting us, right? Because
Yeah.
whether you look at it as cheap labor, which I don't think it is, because quite frankly, with some of my working students, I think they were, depending on how you evaluate it, because I offered a house. Some had horses, some could teach lessons and were making money. They also get a stipend. They're making around 75,000 a year.
Wow.
And because there's no I mean there is
Yeah.
a small transfer of money, right?
Yep.
But not the 75,000. People are always like, "Oh, I'm only making, so little." And you're like, "But you don't have to pay utilities. You don't have to pay the taxes. Go buy your house." And if you it and I also made it so you have to pay on performance. So if you want to teach 5 lessons, you can make more money. If you don't want to teach any lessons and go out partying, then you're not going to make anything,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
Jan, I think in this day and age, unfortunately, the entitlement is huge and you can't get people that want to work. That's the problem with our labor issue. I agree and I don't agree. What do
Yep.
you think?
That's a double-sided coin for me. I think that there is definitely a level of entitlement. I think that's in every realm of American life currently. Um, I have found really amazing workers. I've been super fortunate in that regard too. Um, the two people that just left were phenomenal employees. They did a fabulous job for me. I wish them all the best. We left on great terms. My new guy is phenomenal. I mean, I've been very fortunate in that regard. Working students are a different story. I agree with you. I think that a lot of working students were very much taken advantage of in the last 20 years. And so that's kind of gone by the wayside. I also feel that as kids getting into horses these days are coming from more affluent families, there is a level of entry, if you will, that's changed. You know, when I got into horses, my parents bought the farm as a real estate development. They didn't plan on keeping it a horse farm. They were going to develop it into houses. And, you know, I'm part of the reason why it remained an equine facility.
Thank
Uh,
you.
I'm not the whole reason, but I am part of it. And, you know, I was terrified of horses until I was 10 years old, but as soon as I got a taste of it, they couldn't keep me out of the barn. I mean, I was the quintessential barn rat. You know, I was helping everybody with everything. I ate, slept, and was breathing horses. And I don't really think that that's such a thing anymore. I think that people are more diversified in their interests as far as the working students go. And fewer of them really want to become trainers because it is hard.
Hmm.
And you know, when you're entering at a different level and you're not riding all of the difficult horses growing up and you're
Hmm.
being well mounted, you know, it's hard to understand what it really takes to train a horse from 0 to 60, you know. So I think that working students don't really want to be working students anymore because they don't need to be.
Hmm.
You know,
I think,
they've got the FEI horse. They don't need to work for it
yeah,
to
I
ride
think
yours.
I agree, and I also disagree. I
Yeah.
do think I'm going to play devil's
Yeah,
advocate, and I'm going to say this newer generation knows their worth, and maybe we didn't.
possibly.
I'm poking at barn managers, including myself.
Hmm.
And I think, is it entitlement, or they know their worth and they also want balance in life, right? And I'm not
Yep.
saying, like, for me, there's no balance in life. It's horses 90% of the time. And I love it. I wouldn't change it, right?
Yep.
But I think for others, they do want balance in life. And I think that's something we can learn from,
Definitely. I
you
would agree with
know.
that.
And I think the old people, I don't think, maybe us.
Maybe me. Yeah, probably me.
The old people. uh, but I do think we have to change, right? I mean, there's certain levels when the horse is hurt, right, or the horse has an abscess, or the horse is sick and is colicking. We have to show up. But like, one of my favorite people, she's probably watching right now, right? Best working student I have ever had, but she wants to leave at 4 o'clock,
Yep,
right? Best, I never want her to leave, but I mean, there's something to learn in that, I think,
for
and it's
sure.
okay to leave the barn.
But something could go wrong, Megan.
Yeah,
No,
I
I'm
know, but
kidding.
that's the control freak in us, right?
Yeah.
We
But
got,
isn't that why we do it?
yeah,
You know, I mean, we are a different breed.
we are, and
Yep.
that's, but we also have to think about, are we going to have what? Yeah, I was waiting for this question for the end, but what does the future look like for you? What does the future look like for our sport and our industry, right? We have this generation that we can hopefully teach and learn so our sport goes on. I
Yeah,
hope, like,
I
so
hope
what
so
does
too.
the future look like, right? Is it as dismal, or is there hope? I mean, because there's some pretty amazing people out there.
I would agree with that. I think that the future is whatever we want the future to be.
Ooh, I
Honestly, I
love
mean,
it.
for me, my future is going to be bright. I don't do anything under dim light. So for me, my future is going to be bright. I'm going to survive. I will reinvent myself and pivot and change an axle on a tractor if I have to in order to make the business go. I've done it. I've done it twice. Um, I don't feel that there's really anything that can stop me from succeeding in this industry or in a different industry. You know, I feel like we are our own speed bumps.
Hmm.
You know, we hold ourselves back. We have our own fears and our own insecurities that make us behave the way that we behave. And I feel that, you know, in the future, having these types of conversations and being upfront and collaborating with other barn owners, I think all of us stand the chance to have a really bright future. But I think that it's going to take all of us
Hmm.
to kind of band together and forge ahead. Um, what does my long distance future look like? Retirement in France,
Yeah. Oh, I love
somewhere
it.
in the south of France.
Why?
But
Why the south of France? I think it's beautiful. I've been
oh,
to
it is.
Les. It's amazing.
I lived in Paris while I was in design school, and I fell in love over there. So yeah,
Yeah,
it's a nice, relaxed lifestyle, and they really do understand work-life balance.
they
They work.
do.
Oh, they do. They work a lot less and play a
Yes.
lot more. So maybe one day.
I love it. We have much to learn from them.
Oh, yeah, we do.
Awesome.
We do. Yeah.
Have I missed any questions? Stephanie, are you out there? Is there anything you want to add that I haven't touched on?
We just need to figure out a way to collaborate. We've got to get people together and be it keeping the barn running or even from a training perspective. I'm certain that you have run into these obstacles too about other trainers in the area either being threatened or unsure of what your program looks like. I find that I can learn something from anybody, and I would love to be able to work with other trainers in the area and be each other's eyes on the ground. I mean, your coach is in California, mine is in England.
Mm-hmm.
It's really hard to get um, consistency
Mm-hmm.
with support from other trainers in the area. And I feel like we could all do a little bit better at that.
Yes. Yeah,
Yeah.
I agree. We're hoping, Stephanie and I are hoping that we're bringing light to that, and hopefully we're bringing collaboration. And then, um, what I used to attend, which I hope in some form we bring back, was called the Young Horse Dressage Trainer Symposium.
Okay.
And so every November, we would get together and obviously talk horses, but we'd also talk about business and mental issues, struggle, any kind of things that we're having. So hopefully we can do that. But also with Stephanie and I, we're hoping to do weekly live streams like this and
Yeah.
continue. It doesn't matter who the professional is, it's all of us working together on this. So I think we're going to continue
Good.
having conversations like this.
I hope so. Yeah, I think it's necessary in all realms, in all avenues of the business. I think it's super important. And
Yeah.
I think it's really brave and empowering of both of you to be bringing other people's perspectives into your world, that you're the platform that we all get to speak from, but it says something about the two of you that you want to bring awareness to the community. So I appreciate that. Thank you.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
Well, I want our
She's
Stephanie
back.
talk. I've been doing all the talking. I'm going to mute.
She gives me no notice, throws herself on mute while I'm muted. I have been handling the conversation in the live chat.
Oh, good. And
So,
what have we seen?
well,
Everything
I think you've seen a lot of things flash
Okay,
across
good.
your screen.
Yeah.
And Megan's been reading a lot of questions. No, it's been really great. There's been over 20 to 25 people in there, and we've had a robust conversation, and everybody's been saying we need to keep this conversation going. And I threw Megan under the bus. We are going to have this conversation on this topic at least once a month.
Yeah.
As she said, we do other live streams throughout the month, other topics, but she and I are pretty passionate about this. You probably heard, she read it, I brought it up. We've had a lot of barns in the greater area where we both live that have closed recently. Yeah. And it's because of the mentality of the boarders expecting everything under the sun for little to no money. And, you got farm owners who are like, I'm not paying money out of my pocket to feed and care for your horse. Either you pay the going rate or, I don't, if they can cover their own costs and not have borders that are costing them actually more than what it would cost to just not have borders, then they're closing their doors.
This happens down here too.
Yep. And the other problem we have had recently, lack of being able to find any staff. And you guys have had that conversation too. Mm-hmm. Nobody wants to do the work, and the migrant workers who come in, the immigrants who come in are disappearing because, good paying jobs in other industries. When you've got fast food that's paying $15 to $20 an hour, you've got landscaping that pays really well. Other jobs where they might be willing to do like the manual labor that's paying so much more, and we can't keep up with that because boarders don't want to pay that, what we're going to need to be able to keep that kind of staff. So
Yeah, and
yeah, you guys have all topped on it.
I would say in my situation, it's not for the boarders not wanting to pay it. Again, I'm fortunate in that realm, but there are a lot of facilities in my area where people or horse owners can't pay it, and so we need that's a whole nother conversation. The flip side of this whole thing, we know what we need to do in order to survive, but how can horse owners that are current owners crack their own nut? Megan touched on that a little bit earlier, but it's a complicated situation. I see both
Yeah.
sides of it. We don't want to raise our prices because we don't want to put that strain and stress on other people, but at the same time,
I
I have to cover the cost of my 10 horses and all the care on the other 10 horses, and I expect my clients' 10 horses to pay for my clients' 10 horses. I don't expect them to pay for my own, but I do need that business to sustain itself. And they are
Yeah.
separate. They are separate.
And because I have boarded horses for people on my farm, and have had that conversation where people are like, well, why does it cost me why are you charging me so much? You could board my horse for free. No, I can't. It costs
Sure, we'll
me
do it
money.
we'll do it on your property. I can do
It's
that,
just
but
like,
we'll
I
do
mean,
it
I
on your
literally have
property.
had
We're all
literally
moving to
have had people
Stephanie's.
do that.
Not Stephanie's. I'm talking about the person who says that they could board them for free.
Yeah.
I
It's like,
no.
so I have a much harder nose stance to that. Is if you can't, you need to look at what the current costs of owning a horse are, and if you're realizing you can't afford it, it's time to get rid of the horse. You're being forced out of having that luxury item, and
That's hard.
it's very hard. I don't have horses anymore. I am not a horse person anymore.
I need to get rid of
I'm
7. You
not.
want one?
No. I'm done, and I don't foresee having horses anymore in my life. I just don't.
Yeah, I'll be
I don't.
there.
I foresee it as something that is for the mega rich. I just don't think that middle income people, and especially people that are not middle income or higher, are not going to be able to partake in the sport. I look at how much it costs just to go to show. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
It's
Well,
pricing us out of middle income people can't do it anymore.
Yeah. I mean, that's the main reason we ended up selling Lamplight, was because we saw a shift in our numbers, and it was a business that was not going to be sustainable through the housing crisis that we were facing back in the early teens of 2000s. And we made the decision to sell the business, and we did, thankfully, just at the right time. And it struggled. It has struggled significantly since we've sold the business. And it's gone through 3 other owners. So, it's not an easy industry.
No,
Unfortunately.
no, it's not.
Yeah.
See?
I do have a client, touching on your, you don't have horses anymore, or keeping them at home situation. I had a client that was with me who was one of my all-time favorite clients. We're still incredible friends. And she came to the realization that she just couldn't afford to be a boarder anymore. So they changed their entire lifestyle and ended up purchasing a facility and keep the horses at home. And I get phone calls weekly, like, girl, this is terrible. This is so hard. I can't believe this. This is 24 hours a day. This is so expensive. Can you believe my hay costs have gone up? I'm like, yes, I can.
Mm-hmm.
And
my cost of living, I'm not married, I'm single, and the cost of housing has gone up exponentially. And so, do I want to have my horses and be homeless, or do I want to have a roof over my head? Those are the hard conversations I had to have with myself, and I euthanized my 2 horses last fall. They were elderly. They both had significant health problems, and they were so spoiled up until the day they crossed. But
you're a good custodian. That's
I
what
had
we need to
to.
do.
They lived on my farm their whole life, and I couldn't foresee any situation where they weren't going to probably be neglected or abused.
Yeah.
And that was a big no. It was not
You
going to
gave them,
happen. And
you gave
so,
them the best gift you could give them.
oh, they were so spoiled.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. So, I mean, did it suck? Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
But, it's like knowing their issues, and it all kind of worked out. And that was the decision I had to come to. And I think a lot of people are scared to make that decision. And I think if you've had horses for as many decades as some of us have, you've had to have that conversation and stuff. But
Those are real
this is the first time
conversations.
I've had to do that without going, oh, I'm going to have another one. This is where I was actually like, when these two go, that's going to be it, because I have to look towards keeping a roof over my head. And I made a lot of hard decisions in the last more than 12 months, and Megan's well aware of that. I looked at the career I was in, and I was not going to be able to keep a roof over my head. So I quit that job and said, you're not paying me enough. I'm worth more than this. And I got a new job, and I'm making more money. And I still decided I couldn't afford to keep horses. But like, these are the hard things they're the hard conversations to have. You guys have had a lot of conversations that have been great. And I hope we can continue to have this, like, Megan and I talk about this monthly or something, but it's hard. It is really hard for me to say, I don't have horses anymore. And I've gotten rid of almost everything. I mean, I still have a saddle I got to sell, and it's very hard to get rid of all your horse equipment after decades and decades
Don't
and
even
decades
come
of
over to
owning.
my little storage area. Oh my God.
Megan teased me, and I teased myself. I was a blanket hoarder.
Mm.
I think at one point in time I had over 50 blankets, but I also raised horses. I was a breeder, so would have a lot of horses. But yeah, so I did do the hard math.
It all goes into the cost of it, and unfortunately, those are costs that we don't recoup. I mean, that's a whole other conversation. Like, how do we justify buying all the things that we buy for the horses when, like a car, you drive it off the lot and it's worth 50% of what it was when you paid for it? I mean, this is part of the conversation that I think we missed with the boarding situation. Everybody has the fanciest saddle pad and the fanciest brow bands and the fanciest matching shirts and matchy everything, but they can't afford a $50 board increase. And it's like, well, where are your priorities? Do you want to be the social media queen, or do you want to have a horse?
The
Like,
$1,000 sparkly helmets.
Exactly.
$800 sparkly helmets.
I mean, the helmet thing, I think everybody should buy a helmet, but
no, but
maybe not the
$1,000
sparkly
helmet.
one. Yeah.
I mean, that alone starts to price people out of this sport.
It does.
When your saddle is 10 grand, and your helmet is $1,000, and your bridle is $400.
But aren't those wonderful things to point out? We're spending $7,000 to $10,000 on a saddle, but we can't afford a $400 annual increase or a $600 annual increase in our boarding rates. I mean, this ties it all back into the original conversation about what it costs to run the farm and keep a horse. Like, those are luxury items that aren't necessities, so maybe don't buy that PS of Sweden outfit and support your barn owner.
Yeah. I put it in the chat.
You did?
I put it in the chat earlier. If your barn owner is asking for a $25 increase every, couple of months, says, hey, cost of hay has gone up, I need $25 more, and you're throwing a fit, that's one person, one meal at a restaurant.
Yep. It is.
And if that's all your barn owner is asking for you to pitch in to help pay for a 30% increase in hay or shavings, and you can't do that, then you need to get out of the sport.
Yeah, but I think
tough.
that's the reality. That's why we're having this conversation, is because more people could be like Steph and have to make the decision of not having horses anymore if we as professionals don't come together and clients come together and we all support our community. Like that. I think that's the point we all want to make, is that we need to come together and collaborate.
Yeah, it is. I mean, I hate to see people leaving the sport because they're priced out of it. I mean, it's part of the reason why I try not to raise my rates unless I have to. But I mean, it is a tough. I, as a consumer, you don't want to have to pay more than you feel like you should,
Mm-hmm.
right? But
Mm-hmm.
at the same time, you have to pay what it takes, and it's a very complex situation. You know,
Yeah.
it's not easy.
It is. It's tough, but this is a luxury sport. This isn't like running, where
Mhm.
all you need to do is buy some athletic running shoes, maybe some tank top and some running shorts, and you can go out
Yeah,
and go.
it's
Uh,
different.
yeah,
A
it
lot of
is.
people liken it to the dog boarding business, and that's also not even comparable because that's a short-term stay. It's not an annual commitment. Um,
Right.
and dog boarding gets, $45 to $75 a day. The average horse boarding facility gets anywhere from, I've seen it as low as 11. I don't know how that's possible, to, $60 a day. And I think somewhere in the $30 to $40 a day range is what it really does take in order to make it go.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So
Absolutely. This has been awesome. And I know I
Thank
jumped
you.
out, but it was pretty easy for me to just get out of the conversation. And I mean, it was quite a fruitful, I don't know if that's the right word, fruitful chat, but there was a
thank
lot
you.
going on in the chat. And so I really appreciate everybody who is participating in the live chat. And, unfortunately, YouTube doesn't make that viewable for people in the future who come back to watch this. So you saw me putting a lot of comments on the screen,
Yeah.
trying to kind of, keep those for future use. But yeah, this is awesome. I mean, I'm a little more hard nosed because you just heard me say it. If you can't afford it, you need to get out.
Yep.
Because
I'm not there
part of
yet.
that, well, part of that comes from social media has made it so much more us more aware of the abuse that happens when people suddenly can't afford to have horses and they
Yes.
just don't want to give them up.
It there is a very dark side to the financial part of all this, and you did
There
the
is.
right thing, in my opinion, of giving your horses an ending that you knew was final and
Peaceful.
peaceful. Yep, without suffering, without trouble. But
Nope.
you know, a lot of people can't bring themselves to do that, and
It's
and I
terrible.
understand it. But at the same time, there are hard decisions that have to be made. And I think I'd like
Yeah.
to start with the hard decision of not buying that extra saddle pad so that I could support my barn owner.
I think it's great to see that a lot more of the brands out there are supporting more than just one or two riders. They're sponsoring. You see more than one rider being sponsored by a brand.
That would be
Because I
another
do
great
think
chat for you girls to have. Like, how do riders get sponsorships? I mean, I'm sponsored by a couple of different groups, but
Megan's
that
writing it
is,
down.
yeah.
Writing it down.
I mean, it would be a phenomenal chat to have because that's another way for us to be able to become more sustainable. You know,
Not everybody's an Olympic level rider, which is what all the brands want, right? They want everybody who is the top, creme de la creme, those who are in the Olympics. And, not every professional
Uh,
is going to make it to the Olympics.
I don't know.
So,
I've had a lot of sponsors throughout the years, and I haven't made it to the Olympics. But if
which is
anyone
great.
wants to sponsor me and go, I'm ready. But
that makes two of us.
yeah, but no, I think it depends on the relationship. But I wrote it down, and I think
I'm
we'll have another topic on it. But
Yeah,
yeah,
for
no,
sure. Feed sponsors, shaving sponsors,
Yeah.
sponsors that help with putting a barn together. I mean, there are a lot of different types of sponsorships that I wish were more available to people doing a good job, people that, have a
Yeah.
good program running and could use just a little extra. I
Maybe
think
we can
those are
get you back on, Toby, to talk about that topic.
that and biomechanics. Bring me back.
okay,
Yes.
we
Yeah.
will.
All
Yes,
right.
we
Well,
will.
you
Cool.
said it. We're going to hold you to it.
That sounds
That's
good.
great. Yeah, I think
Yeah,
that's awesome.
yeah.
Yeah.
I think though we should wrap it up tonight. I think this has
For
been
sure.
a fabulous night. I
Yeah.
can't thank you enough, Toby, for your transparency and your inspiration.
Well, thank you.
It's been really, really fun talking to you, and I think everybody else enjoyed it from the comments.
Let's
So
hope
thank
so.
Yeah.
you, and
You
we're
bet.
gonna have
Thank you so much.
we're having you on again.
I would love it. It would be
Absolutely.
great.
Absolutely.
Let's figure out a
Been
way to
great.
get some shavings between you and me, Megan.
Okay, we have a plan. Let's do
All
it.
right. Sounds good.
Absolutely.
Night, ladies.
All
Good
right.
night.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you.
Thank you. Yep.
Night.
Good luck in California.
Yep. Thank you.
All right.
You too.
Okay. All
Stay
right.
warm.
You too. Bye.
So Megan, yeah, that was awesome. Good job. I just like I had said, went on and the comments were flying, which is great. Appreciated everybody's comments. I think this is great. I mean, so many requests of saying, how do we continue this conversation? How do we continue this conversation? Let's make it a plan to have this topic monthly. Bring on whomever we can bring on to talk about it for another input. On that note, if people are interested in being on camera like Toby was, drop us an email or find us on Facebook, send us a message through Facebook, however you want to do it. Our email is, on our channel here. Super easy to drop us an email there. But yeah, I think we need to hear from as many different people and just continue this conversation every month.
And other trainers, boarding owners. I mean, what do we call them? I think I'm fried now talking about all this, but farm owners,
trainers who have to rent to run their facility or pay a per stall fee to hold stalls at
anyone who has topics and wants to come on and talk to us, we would love it. We want to get more and more people aware. We want to promote collaboration. So please contact us. We want to talk with you and we want to share it with the world. And let's make our world a better place. And let's take care
on this
of ourselves.
Conversation, we've been doing barn tours because one of our things is when we were building our farms to try to save money, we wish we had known certain things. And that's kind of what we're doing as a bit of a pivot. Same idea, though, is learning what others have done in building their farms and how they saved money.
Yes.
Same idea.
Yep. And the other thing that I am working on, and we'll need Stephanie in April, I've been learning how to do Patreon and putting up plans for do-it-your-own projects that I've done around my farm. Hopefully I'll get to include your stuff. But I'm working hard on trying to figure out technology, and we want to share that with the world. So we're trying to get it together and become a great resource.
Yeah, we are doing our best, but I mean, we've made many more videos that are coming out. We have more barn tour videos coming out, and I've learned a lot from every barn we visited. It's been fascinating because people have been very candid with us. Like, I wish I would have not done this, or I love this. I think this is a great tip. So anything that we can find out about that, to save money. You've been doing some great shorts in California.
Yep.
Some really interesting things, like, anything I can learn or other people can learn to save money. Love it. Love it so much.
We're trying. Yeah.
I mean, as we've talked about tonight, it's just every penny counts.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, this has been great. Thank you, everybody. I know we still have a bunch of people on. Anybody have any more questions? It's just Megan and I, and Toby was amazing. That was a good 2 hours of talking, and it was really robust conversation. Loved it. So important.
so important. Thank you to everyone who joined us. Thank you to all our subscribers.
Please subscribe.
Please keep subscribing. Tell everybody about our channel, and we hope to grow bigger and help everyone. And we've got
videos ready to go well into June. You've been making a ton of videos in California. When you get back in April, we're resuming visiting barns and making more videos. So we're going to keep doing the lives. So we're working on our March schedule. And going from there. So if you want to be on, even if it's not talking about this topic, if you're in the, in the business and want to talk about something, shoot us an email. We'd love to hear about it. All our live streams are available here on YouTube to go back and review. So we've had some really good guests. I kind of think that having firefighter Andy on was so informative.
Yes.
It's such a thing that we worry about, but he was fantastic. So check that live stream out. It was an hour and a half at most, I think. And it was amazing to really talking about how to kind of think about fire safety in your barn, things that I didn't know about and Megan didn't really know about. And
yep.
That was a neat one because I don't think people think of talking to a firefighter.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah. What about you? What's your favorite live stream been so far?
Andy. Yeah, it would be Andy because I learned so much. But honestly, I loved everyone who's come on.
I know.
They've been great. It's really
fun.
It's inspiring. It's inspiring to talk to other people. It's motivating. And I learned so much from everyone. So really all of it.
So we have kind of a live stream next week that'll tie into this one. We briefly mentioned it earlier in the live. We're going to be having Maureen from English Ivy Farms on. She is in the Atlanta, Georgia area, kind of the greater hunter jumper trainer and successful show facility. And I reached out to her because I saw her TikTok videos talking a lot about burnout. So in my opinion, burnout ties in really well to this, being underpaid, having to be there 7 days a week, 365 days of the year, absolute burnout. So I can't wait. That's Wednesday, I believe, next week.
Wednesday at 7 p.m. I'm looking forward.
So excited for that. Hopefully we can see everybody back on that because I think that ties nicely into tonight's conversation.
Yep.
So yeah, thanks everybody. You got anything else, Miss Megan? Everything going okay in Cali?
Yep.
Is the ground been shaken?
Yep.
Good times. Well, it is 7 degrees here in Wisconsin.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's winter. It's February in Wisconsin. So enjoy your time in the warmth.
Will do.
Bring it back with you when you do. But yeah, we're going to let everybody go. Thanks to everybody who's still on. We appreciate it. Make sure you again, subscribe and come back next week for sure. But yeah, we've got more videos coming out. We publish Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays. And then Megan's been uploading a lot of shorts. So those are always fun. So. All right. Thank you, everybody. Have a good night.
Thank you, everyone.
So bye, everybody.
Bye.